Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel, The Quality Analyst. In the last video, we talked about different components of Selenium. Today, let's zoom into the heart of Selenium automation, the WebDriver architecture. Now, don't worry if you are not a technical expert yet. I will break this down step by step in a way that's super easy to follow. By the end of this video, you will know exactly what happens behind the scenes when you run a Selenium script. Okay, so this is the Selenium WebDriver architecture image. So it comprised of multiple components, that is Selenium client library, browser drivers, JSON, wire protocol over HTTP, and then the actual browsers. So in the client, like we can select the language for coding, like anything from Python, Java, Ruby, C Sharp. Okay, again for the browsers we have Firefox, Chrome, Microsoft Edge, then Edge, like Microsoft Edge, right? And so Internet Explorer as well. So these are the browsers, and every browser has its specific browser driver. Okay, so like ChromeDriver, like Gecko driver, Edge driver, then Internet Explorer driver, okay, Safari driver for Safari, Opera driver. So like, for every browser there is a browser driver, specific browser driver. Okay, so again, this our code, like our code is act as a Selenium client library here. Okay, and the code is converted into JSON. Okay, and the JSON commands are sent to the browser driver via HTTP protocol, and the browser driver talks to the browser and execute the actions. So whatever the actions are there, which will be performed by browser drivers on the browser. Okay, like our code is not directly talking to the browser, rather it, like the JSON code is converted into JSON, and the JSON commands are sent to the browser driver. Okay, and the browser driver is responsible for performing the actions on the browser. So once the actions are executed, the browser driver sends back a JSON response. Okay, so this will again like uh, sends back the JSON response to the code. So based on the response, we will get to know that whether the test passes or fails. Okay, so let's dive into it in more detail. Okay, so we'll discuss the component one by one. Okay, the first is the client, so which is nothing but your Selenium code, the script which we are writing to perform the actions on the browser. Okay, so the process starts when you write and run your Selenium code. This code is written in a programming language like Java, Python, C Sharp, or Ruby. As soon as you execute your script, that code doesn't directly talk to the browser. Instead, it gets converted into a JSON format. Think of a JSON like a universal language that both Selenium and browsers understand. Okay, so this is a client. Okay, let's move to the next component, that is JSON over HTTP to browser driver. Okay, so once the converted code into JSON, these commands are sent to the browser driver through the HTTP protocol. So remember, each browser has its own driver. So for example, Chrome has Chrome driver, Firefox has Gecko driver, Internet Explorer has Internet Explorer driver, Microsoft Edge has Edge driver, Safari has Safari driver, and so on. Okay, so again, based on the browser, we have specific drivers defined. Okay, the browser driver acts like a middleman or a translator between your Selenium code and the actual browser. Okay, so this is a JSON. The next is browser driver. Okay, so now the browser driver communicates directly with its respective browser, and it takes the JSON commands it receives, interpret them, and performs the actions on the browser. So like opening URL, clicking XYZ button, or typing into the some text box, okay, or maybe like click some radio button. So if your code says, let's say, driver.get and then URL such as google.com, the browser driver makes sure that the browser opens google.com. Okay, so this is about browser driver. And then next is response back. So once the browser finishes the actions, it doesn't stop there. The browser driver collects the result, for example, whether the button click was successful or not, and sends that back as a JSON response to the Selenium client, that is to our code. And that's how your code knows whether the test is passed, failed, or if something went wrong. Okay, so to summarize the entire flow, you write the Selenium code, that is which is our client. The code is converted into JSON. The JSON commands are sent to the browser driver via HTTP. The browser driver talks to the browser and execute the respective actions. Once the actions are executed, the browser driver sends back a JSON response to your code. So this entire cycle happens super fast, and that's how Selenium WebDriver executes your automation scripts. So that's the simplified architecture of Selenium WebDriver. So even though it sounds like a lot of steps, remember all of this happens in the background in milliseconds. So you just write your code and Selenium takes care of the rest. So in our upcoming videos, we will look at hands-on examples with WebDriver where you will see this flow in action. So now I want to hear from you, which part of the WebDriver flow do you think is the most critical? The browser driver, the JSON conversion, or the browser itself? So drop your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching.